Everyone talks about getting listings, myself included. But here's the thing, if you get this wrong, you will be in a world of pain. And I want to talk about in this video the downside, the dark side of listing properties, of being a listing agent that no one ever talks about, that I wish somebody would have sat me down at the beginning of my career and said, dude, listen, there are things that you have to take into consideration before you start working with sellers that I'm going to share with you in this video. And so really quick, before we jump into this, I just created something that I'm offering for the very first time. We're about to talk about all the downsides to being a listing agent and all the mistakes to avoid. Well, I just created the free listing agent toolkit so that you can build a listing agent business the right way. This is everything that you need to build a six-figure listing agent business. It's going to include my free listing agent course. It's going to include my listing agent sales script book. So all of my scripts, so you can set really high quality listing appointments, my lead generation journal, my weekly newsletter, where I give tips and tactics that I don't share anywhere else on the internet. You're going to get access to my audiobook for free, and you're going to get a one-on-one private business planning blueprint session over Zoom so that we can map out a step-by-step plan to help you generate a six-figure income. Now, why am I doing all of this for free? Well, it's really simple. If I can help you win with all of these free resources, if the day ever comes and you look to hire a coach and we have that conversation, you never question the value. So if you want to grab the Listing Agent Toolkit, simply click the link in the description or go to reverseselling.com. And first off, it's that buyers and sellers carry two different emotions. Sellers are filled with stress and anxiety, while buyers are filled with excitement. Why? Well, sellers are constantly in the dealing with the unknown, when the buyers, on the other hand, control the entire process. The buyers know exactly when they're going to see the home, whether or not they're going to write an offer, whether or not they're going to do an inspection, what that inspection found, what they're going to ask for, when the appraisal is going to happen, when the closings. I mean, they drive the whole thing. The seller, on the other hand, is essentially in a position of hope. They don't know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. And this is what creates so much stress and anxiety. So the first point, and I don't know how long I'm going to go here, but I'm going to go as long as I need to make sure that I share everything that I wish someone shared with me. The first point is that if you're going to succeed in listing and selling homes, that you're going to have to deal with people that are in high stress, high anxiety emotions. And so if you're not ready for that, that will tear you apart. If you cannot handle conflict and you can only deal with, I just love showing people houses and it's just so fun. This ain't fun. There's a reason why all the research suggests that the top three stresses are death, divorce, and number three, selling a house. The top three most stressful things that somebody will go through in their life. So as a result of that, and this is the part that I really want to communicate in this video, is that getting a listing that doesn't sell is worse than not having the listing at all. You see, so many agents are going out into the marketplace doing whatever they can do to try to get a listing. And they go and they meet with sellers, they do whatever they need to get in front of people. And then when they get in front of people, they twist their arm, they make things seem better than they really are. Whatever they need to do, whatever they need to say to get the listing, they do and they say, just to later regret it. They end up getting this listing under circumstances that they've laid out to the seller that they have no control whatsoever of controlling that outcome that they promised. It was a bunch of empty promises, which is the reason the seller gave them the listing. If you know what I'm talking about, and I'm sure you can share this in the comments, You understand what it means to have sleepless nights because you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Everything is your fault. And you don't go into that in the beginning, even understanding that, even comprehending that, because of your uninformed optimism. It's like, well, I don't even know how the saying goes. It's some stupid saying of a sign in the ground is better than a sign in the trunk or something like that. Some stupid saying that someone came up with. To have a listing is better than not having a listing. Bull. No way. It's BS. It's total BS. To have a listing with a high maintenance, low motivated seller that is only putting their house on the market because you've promised to them that you can get them some price that is unrealistic is probably one of the most stressful situations that you'll ever be in your career. And you will regret it 100%. Because once you've felt that feeling of that weight being on your world, again, it's all your fault. If that thing doesn't sell, your fault. If somebody shows the home and leaves all the lights on, your fault. If somebody shows the house and doesn't take off their shoes and, tracks some snow in the house or some mud, your fault. Everything is your fault. And a lot of times it's because agents are convincing people to do things under circumstances that they have made seem better than they really are. They tell sellers their homes are worth more than they really are. They tell people that their home is in better condition than it really is. And they do this because they're so desperate and needy for a commission check that they're just unwilling to shoot people straight. And then they get the very thing that they spent so long getting to then just simply resent it because of how much stress and anxiety comes with taking a listing that you know is never going to sell. And so here's the big consideration or the big idea that I want to get into that I'm going to unpack right now. Is that listing property is a responsibility. And it comes with a professional, emotional maturity that most agents just for some reason don't realize when they get into listing property. That we need to shift the mindset from getting a listing to selling a listing, to having a list to sell philosophy versus list to list philosophy, which is the cause of a lot of your anxiety, a lot of your pain, is getting these listings that aren't selling. Why? Because you're the one going in there and making everything seem better than it really is versus going in there and interviewing the seller as a mature, responsible professional to lay out exactly what is and what is not, what the market is and what the market is not, what the actual condition of the property is compared to its competitors, the actual realistic price, setting an expectation with sellers of what this really is like. Because when you take one of those listings and you set great expectations, good things happen. There's nothing better than taking a listing under the right expectations. That is what you want to build your business on. And the reason why agents go in there and they can't do that, it's simply because the cause is because of a lack of pipeline. They have no pipeline. They have nothing. They have no scheduled appointments. They have no active listings. They have nothing scheduled to close. They have not built anything so that when they finally get this opportunity to go show up and throw up all over a seller, they end up BSing that person so much so that they end up with really bad listings. And how it should go is that agents that have a full pipeline because they prospect every single day. They're on the phone every day, having conversations, having full pipelines are able to go into listing appointments, not needing the listing, not caring whether or not they get the listing or not, because they have 6 more listing appointments this week. And therefore, because of that, they're able to have leverage in that conversation such that they can shoot the person straight and say, this is exactly what it looks like. Because the last thing that I need is another listing that's not going to sell. And so rather than me try to convince this seller as to why they should do something, ain't going to do it. In fact, I'm going to challenge the seller to test their motivation. I'm going to be the one interviewing the seller to determine whether or not I even want the listing. That isn't ego. That isn't positioning. That is real talk. Your job as a professional, and I believe that most agents are right on a fine line of malpractice, are taking listings under circumstances they know aren't going to work. And if the sellers knew that, boy, that agent would be in a lot of trouble. And so I think it's our responsibility to go to meet with the consumer and be completely upfront with exactly what it's going to take to get their property sold, so that if the agent and the seller mutually agree to move forward because it's a mutual decision, that it's under the right circumstances that both parties have agreed to. And so the downside into listing property, unlike working with buyers, is you are tied to this transaction mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, legally. You are bound to this thing that if you don't do it right, it will come with a bunch of consequences. And this is just a warning that we have to be on the side. You have to go into listing presentations and conversations with sellers with an equal business status, on equal playing fields, that you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. It should be equal. And I've always said this for years and years and years and years with the agents that I work with and the agents that I coach, is I would much rather lose a client, lose a listing based on the truth than get a client based on BS. Meaning I would much rather have the seller not hire me because I told them the truth around what price their home is going to sell for, and they say, I can't accept that. I talked to another agent who said they can get me a lot more. I would much rather lose that listing to that agent, to have that person go and do business with the agent who bought the listing. They either discounted their commission to nothing, or they told the seller some inflated price and the seller chose to do business. I would much rather walk away under those circumstances just to have that seller to come back and say, wow, Brandon, you were right. I did business with Tom, Dick, or Harry at XYZ Real Estate. And yeah, it was a nightmare. So can you come back and save the day? Happens all the time. I would much rather walk away from a situation based on telling the seller the truth and letting some other agent go screw it up than get a client by stretching the truth or BSing or telling them something that isn't true just to get my sign in the front yard, because then you deal with all the downside we just talked about. Having the stress and the anxiety, and have the seller, bitching and complaining, why are you not selling my house? Why is it not selling? Why is it not selling? And now you have to come up with more BS. And now you're just digging yourself a bigger and a bigger and a bigger and bigger hole. And then just make excuse after excuse. This is why sellers get so pissed off when you take a listing and then want them to reduce the price all the time. It's because you took it up front at a price that you knew it wasn't going to sell. So I'd be annoyed too, because you didn't have the courage to tell them the truth. Why? Because you were afraid you were going to lose it. Why? Because you had nothing else in your pipeline.